once again, and welcome to our first Doctor on Call program for 2022. It's indeed a pleasure to be back, and of course, we look forward to sharing lots of information with you as it pertains to you, making available to yourself the best possible health. All right. This evening, of course, it's even much more pleasure to welcome my very dear friend who was with me throughout 2021 and is back again. First program in 2022, Dr. Sonia Nixon. Doc, good evening. Welcome. Happy New Year.
Good evening. It's great to be here. Hello to everybody in Grenada, in the diaspora, following, whether you're on TV, whether you're on the radio, whether you're on social media. It's really great, I think, that we all are here. We're still here together again and giving thanks. And there's a lot to give thanks for. So I wish everybody a really wholesome new year, a year that is filled with empowerment and a lot of knowledge about your own well-being, a year that's filled with well-being and health in general, a year that's filled with peace, prosperity, love, unity, all the things that make us a great nation.
Yes, indeed. It is indeed a pleasure. Doc, 2021 was a very challenging year for us in Grenada, and by extension many other people around the world, but in Grenada it was challenging, of course, in more ways than one. Let's look back as it relates to our health or well-being. What would you make of 2021?
When I think of 2020, and I call it 2020 one more time, because there were so many things that came from 2020, the doubt about coronavirus, its possibilities, what can happen, all the misunderstandings, the misgivings, the differences we have, and we still haven't come to a common understanding of what coronavirus is. That was 2020. It really was 2020 one more time. And I think we just lost too many people in 6 weeks. We lost 200 of our citizens in 6 weeks, between 18 and 117 years of age.
Yes.
But we lost a lot of our seniors. And I've said before, a country without old people lacks wisdom.
No, definitely so.
They still are the ones who kind of give us a gauge that even by the quiet examples and sometimes by sticking it down our throats, act as moral compasses for us and other compasses, give us counsel and that experience that they've had. It's a pity that we lost so much of our seniors. Yeah, there may have been a lot of people who may have had dementia, but it doesn't matter. They also formed the cement of their families. We know how it is. Mm-hmm. We still live in a situation where families are multi-generational. So you have the great-grandmother living with this one daughter as a grandmother, who might have a son or a daughter who lives in a house with their spouse and maybe a child, or not even a spouse. You might have a single parent living in a house with that great-grandchild. And there is what we learn. We learn family traditions, we learn family behaviors, we learn family attitudes, especially in relation to health. When you use the seniors, it's really a bad part of our whole life, our family life, and it creates a big vacuum, especially the urgency with which it happened, the speed, the quickness with which we lost these relatives. They went to hospital and that was it. You don't see them again, or they get so ill at home and they die and they're taken away. And people in Grenada, like, when you have funeral, we know people will die, right? Mm-hmm. 70 of 100 of us die every year. A lot of us die every year, but when you have funeral, everybody come to your house and they come for a room or they bring a room. Some people might bring a room, but a lot of people come for. Mm-hmm. But it's that outreach and stuff. And coronavirus took us away from each other. It took us away from girlfriends. Girlfriends. It took us away from having partners. It took out people who had extramarital relations that may have been fulfilling to them. It took them away from that. It took us into homes where there were abuse and no escape for girls, children, boys who father beat them all the time because they just tired of seeing them, or their mother beat them, and the frustration. It took us into a situation where people were stressed because there are a lot of job loss and a lot of doubt as to where I'm going. How is my family going to survive? And while some people had, a little holdout, a little moratorium on their bank bills and stuff, that's going to change at the end of January. Because the bank goes back to wanting your loan. Do you have a job? Have you gotten back your job? Is the job paying you as much? Are you earning as much? It took us back to loss of income or decrease in your income. We as professionals lost. We have had decrease. People who do fee for service. But the simple people who go out and do a day's work, cut your yard and stuff, I'm home now. I'll probably chop my yard myself, or your husband will chop your yard himself. So the man who would come by and make a pan pie for the day, having money to take home to his family to buy a meal, that was no longer there. So there was really a lot of change. And I think a lot of the change and the challenges we had what tie up with string, that string was stress. Okay? And it was confusing. It was hard. We didn't understand. I also not just our health, because I think we forget a lot the mental health of our children. We've seen quite a lot of suicides. We have not talked about it, but there has been a lot of suicide among men.
Yes, there was. We were hearing quite a bit about them.
And it's something that we don't talk about, which kind of bothers me, because you have to understand it. I guess it's because we don't understand them, but there must be a way for us to understand why people commit suicide, which incidentally on the books is still a crime. You know that, right?
Yes.
If you attempt suicide, right? So people will try and make sure that they complete it so they don't have to face the embarrassment of going to jail.
They should still put them in jail.
Yes. Why does someone not? Yeah, an embarrassment for the family, because it's really difficult.
Yeah.
So, but our children lost their social lives. Children spend 8 hours a day in school with their peers and learning to play this Mary Brown girl and play whining games and kick juice box on the road and mash up your school shoes in the first week and don't know where your book is anymore and you call. And those kind of things are very important. But above all, children miss their friends. Think about it.
You want to play?
Yes, you want to play, but the other people, yes, some brother, but they don't want a little diversity here. Think about it. If you were going to stage 1, grade 1, whatever that is, right? Beginning high school. The first time kids saw their teachers, going to first one, I wanted to say, or primary school, grade 1. The first time children saw their teachers and wear their uniform was in October, late October too. Yeah. Or November. Hardly any time, no interaction. And like I said, I don't know what I do, because I went to convent my first part of my high school years, right? And I was just so happy the day I went up there. Granted, I'd kind of went up from high school to figure out the territory when I was a little girl. But that thing, you never get to meet your teachers. You don't meet your friends. You create a whole new life, a whole new world of friendships as you get into your adolescent years. And our children have been deprived of that. Not just our children, but all children globally, right? Children who will travel, in the summer you go to other places, you learn the world. It's all virtual. And virtually sitting in front of a TV trying to grasp. Can I tell you something what I feel, and this I'm going to get beaten for this. I think our children should put on their uniforms in the morning to go to school, because it creates a sense of we identify together, we look the same. So I get up in the morning and I get ready. I get my hair combed, brush my teeth, eat my breakfast, and go to school. The only thing that doesn't happen is that I don't take the bus, or my father don't have to fight with me to get into the car on time. I know. Right? Yeah. I really wish, this is one of the things that I wish would happen. And parents might say no, but I think our uniforms identify us one with the other, right? And that might be the thing. And I'm missing that. I remember how important it was for me to wear my school uniform when I went to big school the first time. That thing, children have missed that. And they have their own doubts and stuff. And I don't think we focused a lot on children and stopping their lives, because I don't know how many parents have taken the opportunity to explain to them. And maybe simply because we ourselves as adults don't understand. So those are the things. Those are the things. I tell you though, I watch people at Christmas when we removed curfew and most of the restrictions. although you're begging people to still wear a mask and do, physical distancing and, just be cautious all the same. Get your vaccines and all the rest. And I watch people shopping and they were buying lots of things for their house to look nice. And I felt a sense of joy because I think people try to feel how I feel at Christmas again. What do? And the women are buying pretty curtains. They're just really buying pretty curtains. And I felt happy for that. Because I think we needed to feel a kind of sense of normalcy
again. Yes.
Maybe it's just, but maybe that in itself is just a blanket over all the other sense of loss that we have experienced. The isolation. We looked at our normal booming tourism product, dwindle. It's a means of income. We've got a lot of things. The students from St. George's University is one of the biggest GDP earners. We're locked up. And even for the students, being on campus, when you go to university, it's a very important part because you learn to identify the people whom you're studying. You meet your colleagues who you'd be seeing patients within the next 5-6 years. Do you understand? And
but it also helps with cultural interaction because, for example, at the university, you meet people from different cultures, different races. Right. You interact, you learn.
That diversity that you're able to embrace didn't happen. But I heard you talking about or people participating, or people listening. We have a lot of information to share. What I would like to see this year is even greater participation and people asking questions. I want people to start to think of what they don't understand, what they'd like to hear more, and don't be afraid to call. This is what I'm hoping. We spent a lot of time last year also fighting and trying to focus on a vaccine. Unfortunately for us, by the time a vaccine became physically available to Grenadians, we were actually already informed in diverse ways as to why yes and why no, especially why no. And so for a lot of people, it still remains a source of confusion. And you may find that your workplaces are asking you to please go get your vaccine or else. We'd rather that you have your vaccines before you come on things. So people, there's still that doubt as to why should I do this? We spend a lot of time talking about it. There's a lot of misleading information. And then that surge in September, October, that really, I was catapulted, and I'm accustomed to seeing people ill and dead, right? So it must have been very hard for our population as a whole. But we kind of also need to focus, and I want especially the younger people who seem to think that they are immortal, which is normal for young people. But I'll tell you why. I want them to think of how they're going to prevent having challenges. Like I tell everybody, old people are dead, so it's we next. There are no more old people to die like that. The volumes and the rapidity. So we are the ones who are going to become affected. And we've seen a new variant, another one of the coronavirus appear, and it may not hit us as physically serious. We may not have as many deaths, but who knows? What does the coronavirus do to the rest of you? So hear what it did to the other people. And there's still a lot of research going on, right? Inconclusive, but some supposed. So it made us have problems with our blood being able to clot normally or not clot. So a lot of people had these tiny clots. That's what the virus did. Once it gets into your system, it kind of turned on some of the mechanisms in your body, okay? But in a very exaggerated way. And so people had clots and they had other secretions in their lungs, especially since the Delta variant really attacked your lung, okay? But the very fact that it made all those cytokines, that toxic substance, come off, those substances also cause extreme reactions in your other organs, right? So what we've seen is a lot of people develop diabetes because it affected the pancreas, which controls the insulin, which produces the insulin. And if you have a pancreas that's sick, it's not going to be able to produce insulin, and you will have diabetes. Because your body now cannot handle, right, and use the sugar that you eat for energy. And I say sugar is the end product of whatever you eat. But it couldn't do that. We've seen people have strokes. A lot of the younger people in the 40s who died from coronavirus, who could probably handle a chest infection, had strokes and heart attacks because of these little clots. So this one probably wouldn't do that. But it's so catchy, it's so contagious,
yes.
It's so easily passed, right, from one person to the other, that what we're going to have is a whole lot more people who have it. So we have heard people talking about, oh, this is a common cold and all the rest of it. Is it really? Does that little bit of virus that gets into your system that make you have just maybe a common cold symptoms, does it actually still have the potential, and I want everybody to ask themselves that question, does it still actually have the potential to do some damage to some of the organs, right? Like the Delta variant did. And I mean, especially, I'm concerned, especially among our younger population. I'll tell you why. When we, in 2019, which is my special, September 2019, Grenada, we're already catching in to control the level of long-standing disease, hypertension, diabetes, people with heart problems, people who had strokes needed rehabilitation and support, and loss of job. You can't work if you have those kind of severe illness. You also now depend on the social security coffers, what the NIS can give you, right? So if you were to have to retire at 60, 65, yeah, you'll get your NIS. But when you have to retire at 40, it starts to put a little strain, because you're not putting in what you should be doing for the next 20 years, but you're taking out early, and you probably take out longer, right? You just might live to be the same 80, but you have a disability that doesn't allow you, or you need to get more medication, so the health services have to protect that. And then we watch our health service go to shambles. A lot of people who had regular, normal disease that were in control, hypertension, diabetes, had to be, even people with cancers, had to be kind of shuffled off to the side to give, right?
Wait for COVID patients, yes.
For the people who had coronavirus, right? But I want people to remember that coronavirus is not the only thing that happens in this country. Mm-hmm. And if we control the other things, we stand a better chance of not being severely affected. If we can control our hypertension and our diabetes and all the other stuff, we probably have a bigger hold on controlling how coronavirus affects us, because most of the people who died had other chronic conditions associated, most of which were not under control. And then there's a big elephant that we don't want to take care of in the room, just the issue of vaccination, right? I don't know how many people you've had to fight with. There's some people I just refuse to fight with because I expect them to know better. The truth is, we know that in Grenada, 95% of the people who died because of coronavirus were unvaccinated.
Yeah.
All right? So there are a lot of things that we know. And the one thing I'm asking everybody is to consider, say to yourself, how am I going to stay well, and how am I going to navigate 2022? Because I call that one 2020 TOO, okay, is another 2020 if we don't take into consideration the fact that we have to practice individual responsibility, right, and seek out the services that will help us to remain well. See what the preventable diseases are and how and I want to focus. I want to ask the young people in particular to start focusing on being responsible for yourself. Okay? Being responsible for yourself. So if you're 19, 20, what am I required to do to make sure that I don't get sick with anything? Okay? Not just coronavirus, with anything. Right? One of the things that our young people don't have, there are few young people who do it, but most of our young people do not have the habit of getting regular checkups. Older people too. But our young people, I want them to really start focusing on, how am I, me, whether my name is John Doe, Mary Thomas, I don't care. How am I going to take responsibility for my health and wellness? In a positive way, because it's my body, I'm not taking a vaccine. But what are the pros and cons of taking the vaccine? I'll tell you, a young lady, I got called the coronavirus vaccine. And I actually doubted myself for a moment. I said, did I? Maybe I did. Let me check. And I looked at among my files, and her name wasn't there. And I vaguely remember having met the name because I asked the girl to spell her name. The way she said it, I know it wasn't spelled the usual way. Mm-hmm. And And she went and told her boss, I had given her a letter. And she had given a letter. But that is very unlikely, okay, that I will give somebody a letter. Very.
Doc, some very, very important things came out there, and I can, thinking and listening to you, there are a number of things that we could have spoken about. One of them was the amount of accidents we saw happening. And it leads me to think about our lifestyle and how it can seriously impact our health. Sometimes we don't pay attention to the things we do or how we act or how we behave, but in the long term, it can affect us. And I think this is something that, as a people, we need to pay very close attention to. Sometimes you look at the news and you hear of serious accidents where people need, serious help to do surgery and all of these things. And I'm asking myself, are we paying attention to the things we do sometimes? Are we thinking seriously about our actions? Do we stop for a moment and consider whether our actions can cause us to be in situations where we won't be able to help ourselves, and we are now placed in a situation where we have to depend on other people to help us? Now, what about the other people who need to help their families and their friends? Are we paying attention to that? And it may sound a little rough, but that's right.
I know the police did a lot of work trying to do PR, reaching young people, people in general, motorists in general, as per driving, being safe on the road, ensuring that you look out for yourself and others, the people you drive with, avoiding alcohol. People just have probably close to 7,000 vehicles on the road. It means that you can't drive as fast, right? So what happens is that people try to pass other people and everybody bad drive and they do all the stuff. When I go on the road, do you plan your trip when you go on the road? When you're leaving home in the morning, you say, I'm going to drive through X road. Maybe when I drive on Morris Bishop Highway, I'll find. Does that ever come to your mind? How you going to mitigate accidents? Mm-hmm. Most people don't. They get into their car and they drive, and a lot of the young people who drive don't have no experience.
No, it's true.
You see someone today struggling down Granans, down True Blue, could hardly hold the steering wheel. The next week they have a spinning their key in their hand and they drive and they jump in and they speed off. No indication, no nothing. They just move because it's a matter of getting from point A to point B, right? And nobody wants to follow the rules. Nobody learns the rules. The rules are made to save all our lives. And if everybody followed the rules, we'd all live. People getting on the road in derelict vehicles. How responsible am I? Mm-hmm. What am I taking into consideration to ensure that I am safe and everybody who comes in contact with me, who I may pass on the road, is equally safe? Again, it comes back to people acting responsibly. And that's one of the things our population is going to have to get accustomed to. Yeah. Being responsible, not only for themselves, but for the people around us. It's a societal responsibility.
No, indeed. I mean, and even people probably wondering, okay, so we're talking about health. We have a doctor on the program with us. As well. And you're wondering, well, all right, well, how can some of these things affect your health? But it can, because the final result can place you in a situation where you may need medical care. And if you do, then clearly your health is affected. People, they drink too much, they get into arguments, and they don't know how to settle it. It ends up in a fight. It ends up in a brawl. Someone gets injured. And all of these things, they are health concern, because when you get injured, if you get chopped or you get whatever, you have to now go to the hospital. Our healthcare system now have you to look after. So all of these things.
But you don't even take into consideration that if there's a murder or there's an accidental death, the cost of doing one forensic set of forensic procedures is phenomenal. $10,000-$15,000. Moving the body, doing the post-mortem, when you add up the costs, right? If the person dies, right? Just doing forensic costs a lot of money on the system. That is money that can be put into the health system for education, for support, for screening for disease, and all the rest. So we think singularly. I just want to go down to whichever party, and I just want to have fun. The other thing is that when you drink, you become disinhibited in your behaviors. Who you having sex with? I'm not telling people whether or not they should have sex. That's not what it is. Who am I having sex? Am I protecting myself? There's still a lot of HIV around, you know. Do you know that? Right? There's still a lot of HIV around. Are you up in everybody's face? Are they drinking? Ooh, and they're happy they take off the mask and they spread a lot of coronavirus over the season. We've seen the surge. We had 193 cases last night. Yes. And we've had 600 and something cases. Probably, I can comfortably say that in the last week and a half, we had 500 new cases. And we know that there are people who know that they were contacts and who have not been contacted and screened, who know that they've had corona, but it's mild symptoms, so they have not reported. And they have not reported. You know why they don't report? They claim that they don't want to be a statistic. That's a statistic is what gives us an idea as to where this thing is. So if everybody been partying up in, I'm from Lamode, so I'd say Lamode, right? And one guy come from Lamode and say he had it. You might think that's because he's working in the market and people see him all the day, you know, people pass him, and right? When in truth and in fact, the guys there might be fraternizing and sitting and drinking and smoking weed together and doing whatever they're doing, and he takes it home to his family, and it goes on and on. But we don't understand that it's his family, is his friends he may have gotten it from.
Yeah, Doc, let's take our first commercial break, a short one. When we come back, we'll chat some more about, go deeper into what should be our health focus for 2022. So stay with us, folks. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
You're already ill and have no time or energy to walk every which way to access your healthcare needs. So come to Spice Isle Imaging on the Carenage for a one-spot stop for all your health service needs. See our in-house doctor and get your meds from the pharmacy right on location. Digital X-ray, MRI, CT scans, mammography, ultrasound and laboratory services are also available. So for that moment when life makes demands on you, you can make demands on us. Visit us at Spice Isle Imaging, Carenage, St. George's.
Do you have muscular pain that no one can find a solution for? Are you tired of taking meds for joint and other pains? Hills and Valley Medicare Center on Grenville Street, St. George is here to help you heal. We will help you map a path to your full recovery. Visit us Monday to Saturday for a consultation with our on-site doctor, physiotherapist, and massage team. You will be glad you did. Our Medicare Center, a proud member of the Hills and Valley group of companies. On the hilltop or in the valley, we are with you wherever life takes you. Hills and Valley Pharmacy. Your health is our business.
Level of convenience and comfort awaits you when you shop at Rise and Shine Supermarket and Hardware Supplies, Griffin Lane, Grenville. Convenient, because we are open Sunday to Sunday. We're even at your service on public holidays. Comfort, because we are easily accessible to the physically challenged. Free Wi-Fi is available while you shop, and bags come at no charge. Everyday low prices and excellent customer care. Adequate parking available. We supply everything you can possibly think of. Family and home supplies, fresh meat, vegetables, and personal care products. All brands of cooking gas at affordable prices. You can send in your order, have it pulled, or pick up express.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Our upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment as one into eternal rest. Visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
Welcome back. It's Doctor in Call, Dr. Sonia Nixon with us, and we're just basically looking at a new focus on health as we move forward into the new year. Doc, as a professional, as a medical professional, what should be the main focus of people like yourself, as it relates to the health of the people? In other words, what should you be doing? Where should the focus be? How can you or you and your colleagues, play? What role or what additional role can you play in guiding the nation as it relates to health?
And that's a very good. I think we have to take, because we keep telling people what to do when we come here. What the truth is, as healthcare professionals, healthcare deliverers, we have a responsibility. We need to inform. I do believe patients need to ask more questions and get their doctors accustomed to be critical in their thinking and to look at it more globally. Patients need to make a little more demands so that we know that, hey, we got to step up our game. But in the interim, we also have a responsibility to have a game that's stepped up. Keep up to date. Make sure that whatever you tell your patient is in his best interest. Because there's some things that, everything is still there. I was there in 2019, December 30th. It wasn't until December 30th we learned about coronavirus, right? Mm-hmm. So everything else was there. And probably even worse, because most of our healthcare services kind of got diverted, right? To focus a lot on what coronavirus pandemic being, right? What the pandemic brought. And the services, the people who give care, especially our nurses, who give very good hands-on, face-to-face care, they also became very involved in the whole issue of giving care. But we still need to empower them. We still need to make people understand, because everything has become so much more to update our knowledge. We have to update the information. We have to find simple ways to translate the knowledge that we have, the scientific knowledge that we have. It must always be based on evidence, what has been shown. Okay? We need to talk among ourselves so that we come to a common agreement as to what is the story, what is the gift we're giving to our patients for the year. And I'm just talking 2022 because that's what we're focusing on. But we're going to have to step our game in a way that it becomes collaborative. Remember that people are not seeing us as often because people are staying away from coming into the public as far as possible, right? So we're going to have to empower people sufficiently so that they can take care of themselves when they're on their own. They can make decisions. The other things, we have to make ourselves a little more available to our patients by communication. Step it up. Everybody have a phone. Their patients send you an email or a text message and ask you a question because he probably doesn't need to come into home. And the other means they have electronic telemedicine. Yeah. So some doctors have already gone to that, right? But that takes time, and it brings an added level of responsibility and legality. But I tell you online, if I don't examine it, is it valid? I don't know, right? There are conditions. So even if it means that we have to go that way, but we have to. I I saw one of my friends who lives in the UK posted that she thought she had COVID. 9 days, she's still sick and feeling sick, right? And she's done COVID tests and they're all negative. But it's kind of unlikely that you'll have two false negatives. But then again, we still have leukemia. And we still have diabetes and all those things. And the truth is, she may just have one of those. She's of Indian descent. It's quite likely that she's debuted as a diabetic. It's just been Christmas and she's had all this, and she indulges. She likes the festivity and stuff. You know what she said to me? I said to her, why don't you go and get your blood count and some stuff done? And she said, it's so hard to see a doctor here, right? She got an appointment with a nurse in another week. Right? So I said, well, maybe you should just go and at least go to the pharmacy and ask somebody to check your blood sugar for you. Something as simple as that you can start eliminating. Because she's otherwise she's in her 50s, early 50s, but she's otherwise a normal, healthy person. Right? Outdoorsy walks, exercises, but she just may be having diabetes. You're not supposed to sit for that. I'm saying that to say that we have to make care available, right? My concern also is for people who have diseases that require care overseas, extra care. So like people with cancers or people with very complicated disease who can actually get care overseas and the cost and the stuff. And so we have a responsibility to mitigate the problems from way behind so that the 40-year-old person with diabetes who have obesity, we should really take it and say, not just give him his pills, but sit down and think about visiting an eye doctor, make sure that he has a visit to the podiatrist, make sure the nutritionist sees him, that he gets into his ideal way, that he stops drinking, which is one of the challenges we have. So I have to look at it in a very integrative way, right, of how we're going to handle care. So you become the center with you and the patient. And then you bring in all the other partners, right? And you call your relatives. So if you came and you said, and I said, well, I think I really need to work on your weight. I think I'm going to ask the nutritionist to have a sit down with you and your wife, and you guys do that. That is how we're going to have to practice medicine in a much more integrated way than saying, boy, go and walk here, right? Spend an extra 5 minutes and ask, so what you eating? Have you been drinking a lot? Maybe you're just drinking a lot of alcohol, which is a lot of glucose, right? And it could convert into fat when you finish, if your pancreas is still working. But we have to make it more integrated. But we have to take responsibility to preserve the life of the 110,000 that has remained.
But Doc, I have a question I want to ask, follow up. You mentioned meaning the physicians have to take responsibility and do what has to be done. But let's say, for example, in the case of, and I'm using COVID as an example, or the vaccine, for example, when there are those within the profession who they have a different opinion, who feels that people should not, because for whatever reason. But isn't that confusing the people who you're supposed to be helping?
Yeah, so we have a moral responsibility and a professional responsibility to ensure that we give people information that is not going to create any harm for them. Okay, it's very important that we do that. And I hope my colleagues will be honest enough for themselves. I tell patients I don't know. If I don't know, I don't know. I'm not going to tell my patient a lie, because at the end of the day, he might get the truth out of even you, who is a lay person, right? And he will get the information, and then I would look like a fool. So we have to be honest. And if you don't want to and coronavirus, the whole vaccine is probably the greatest point we can have here. You should ask people to say, look, this is my opinion, this is how I feel. I think you should talk to somebody else, right? This is how I feel about it. And you're free to look for another opinion. But this is my personal conviction. Because each physician and nurse and whoever works in the system has a right to his opinion. But we have to think of the greater good. And if I don't want to participate, what most of the people are saying, I must tell the patient, look, I don't believe this is it, but I think you can talk to somebody else to hear the other side of the coin, and you can make a decision from there.
Isn't there an oath that physicians take before they get into practice? I mean, when you finish in school,
you kind of say it when you're in graduation.
Yeah, but I mean,
there are also some schools that actually some schools, and I say schools of thought, different medical schools, who just don't even do things like professional ethics, which should be a subject. So, for example, in Jamaica, which is the jurisdiction that I probably know the best, you require a certain amount of credits annually for your registration, right? Because everybody has to be registered and re-registered. Here we do it every 3 years. But in Jamaica, you have to do at least 1 credit hour of medical ethics every year, provided by the medical council before you just to remind us, because things have changed. Okay, things have changed. There are laws, for example. People probably don't know that under the law, abortion is illegal. People don't know. But there are lots of changes. I see in Austria, they have allowed for people to in the last 2 days, right? They have passed a law allowing people who are over 18, who are severely ill, to die by euthanasia, by assisted suicide. So somebody comes, and there are different mechanisms. There's one mechanism that kind of puts you to sleep and takes down the oxygen, and eventually you die. You're going like a chamber, and you relax, and you fall asleep and you die. There are different mechanisms. People can have a choice. So those are the things you have to discuss, the things that affect medical ethics, which are very different because our laws are archaic. We have very old laws. We have, if you look at our mental health laws, for example, right, they're very old. So we have to, first of all, know what they are. We as physicians and nurses and people who give care, how does the law support the laws of the land, the medical laws, the mental health laws, and also support? What can I offer my patients? And above all, what is my responsibility? What is my role in disseminating information that is of benefit or not to my patient? So that's a personal responsibility that I think everyone has. And I wish my colleagues would, we could focus on that a little more, getting information. And there's sometimes discussion. You have different sources and you can, and there is a lot of information. I mean, there's just a plethora of information out there. You have to also figure out where that information come from. Because I tell people, I've seen research papers that say done by John Doe, Mary Jane, whoever, who don't exist. It's just an essay that they use the template and they write it and put information and you will never know, and they published. But when you check it, you see it on the internet, you see it somewhere, so you see it and it comes from some source, right?
Doc, I want to ask you, just finish, when you finish.
When you look at a source, right? If you Google a source, because sometimes it doesn't appear on the internet, sometimes you see some other stories that come with people who are racist, who use the Confederation flag.
Yeah, they have their own agendas.
Who support agenda. So you have to be very careful where information comes from and why it's been disseminated.
Right.
But I think we could get into discussion and to come to a common ground in the interest of patients.
Right. So, what I'm going to ask, it may be a little heavy, but is there a medical association? I'm not sure. You have.
Yeah, there's a medical association. The medical association is a professional body, like how you have a Lions Club and stuff. They just deal with issues of the profession, okay? Right. But then there's a medical and dental council, which is a regulatory body who will register you, who would do take if there's punitive action, judge, say, well, no, like if I'm caught trafficking, let me say something that's expensive. No, if I'm caught trafficking drugs, I can be expelled. I can be taken off the record.
Right.
So that's the role of the medical council. I'm sure you remember a few years ago when you're not in good standing with the council, you should not be seeing patients.
Okay.
So those are the things.
That's right.
But that's a council, medical and dental council. Regulate. Medical Association, the Guinean Medical Association, is a professional body where colleagues come together and share thoughts, do
right. Well, right. That's the one. That's the one I am where my mind is now as it relates to health policies. All right, and I'm talking about let's say policies made by, let's say, government. Can there be some sort of guidance from the medical association? We said, right? Right. Yeah.
That's the professional body.
The professional body. Don't they have the power to stand up? Look, a physician, you've gone to school for many years. You've been trained in a profession. This is not no fly-by-night thing. This is specific training for a particular, area. Can they not guide policies as it relates to health, or guide decisions, and the decisions are made and not in the best interest of a healthy nation? Can that body come together and say, listen, this is wrong, we are not going to condone that, you need to change that?
So you're talking about the body becoming a voice,
yes,
for the well-being of the population.
Of the population, and
that is very important. That can happen because most policy is led by the Ministry of Health. That is their ultimate responsibility. But you can influence policy. You can make suggestions. So the Medical Association is on other participating on groups, like, for example, Medical Association is part of the Chronic Disease Commission. We just finished doing a policy and a plan for elimination containment, elimination, prevention of childhood obesity, which is the other big elephant. Okay, and a lot of children who have been home, just like mommy and daddy and granny, who've just been home, they eat junk and they put on weight. But we have seen that our obese children have elevated cholesterols, even in the adolescents, 13, 14, elevated pressure, and 13, 14, right? Diabetes of the type that a granny have, right? So it's not that the pancreas has never worked, as happened in juvenile diabetes. These are people who had pancreas, but they eat so much crap, too much high carb food, all the junk and the noisy packaging and all the foolishness that we buy cheap, right? So the Medical Council is part of that group and has had its input through its representative in influencing that policy. So it can initiate its own policies.
But how effective is it? I mean, sometimes, in all honesty,
I don't know, a lot has been done. I think if more were done, we'll see more effective things happening. If we would look at the other policies that already exist and take elements out and implement them, we will see, then, and ensure that our constituents as a medical association, become participants, become parties, right? Become partners in all of this, then things will change. So probably we just need a little bit of flame under our sit-down parts, so we can be more influential. And those are the things I'm saying, that the physicians and the nurses, because we have a nursing association and we have pharmacy association, right? And all of those things, that they become part of the movement to wellness. Right? Yeah, and a pharmacist might want to sell drugs, but a pharmacy might also want to sell exercise equipment and and other things. So those are the challenges that we have, and it's going to call for that collective spirit and that sense of responsibility, and get us away from the drive-through therapies that we offer. Patient come, you write a prescription, they're gone, or patient come, you send up a test and stuff. It has to be a little more integrative, that you encourage, you encourage people the other parties that can influence the quality of care and the well-being, because well-being is the word I really want to use, right? The well-being, because that's what we want to promote, well-being for everybody, even in the midst of all the challenges that we have, even in the midst of a coronavirus pandemic that is going to explode again. I mean, Trinidad is on their 5th surge. Yes. Barbados.
And was there? I think there was some news of a new variant in the south of France. I think this came over this morning.
I saw something in sleep at some ungodly hour in the night, but yes.
Yeah, I didn't get all the details on it.
Currently, we have Omicron.
Yeah.
I won't even tell you how I call it because I can't say on TV. But we have Omicron, which is a milder variant from the fact that it doesn't cause as severe situations, physical problems as Delta. Delta was the devil itself, okay?
Right.
We know that.
Yes, okay.
But Omicron passes on quickly.
Yeah, very contagious. Yeah, very, very contagious.
Right? You know, there was a slide I wanted to send you that says if you and I are in a place and I'm wearing a cloth mask and you will wear a cloth mask, the time in which we can transmit the virus. If I'm wearing a cloth mask and you're wearing a surgical mask, if I'm wearing a cloth mask and you're wearing an N95, and you see the time of that you require for transmission increases with the quality of the masks. So no, N95 is the boy, okay? Because that virus is okay. So you have to have a mask that is even more efficient. So who have N95, you really should be using them to avoid, catching or passing on the virus to other people. And so one of the other things people talk about the mildness of the virus. It's not going to be mild for everybody. Remember that, because you have people who already have challenges.
Yes.
Right?
Indeed.
So here are the two challenges. It's not going to be mild for everybody. But it goes through so quickly, you don't have a time to get very ill. And since it stays mostly in the upper respiratory tract, up in the nostrils and the throat and stuff, you get headache, like a sinus, you get a lot of sore throat and stuff, sneezing and runny nose and stuff, right? But it passes on to so many people. So at the end of the day, you may have the same amount of people hospitalized.
Yes.
Especially our children. The Americans have been telling you how much their children who have not been vaccinated have had to be admitted to hospital because they have severe upper tract infection, can also cause breathing problems, especially in a child whose tissues are still very soft and will collapse. Okay. So you have the large volumes of persons. So even if they're not very sick, you're going to still have a large volume of people who get sick and might require hospitalization, and who might get very ill because they don't have an immune system that can take care of it, right? So that is the thing. Again, putting stress on our healthcare services, putting stress on our hospital staff who also have been getting sick from coronavirus. They work hard, their immune system, even if some of them have been revaccinated, have had their 2 vaccines. They're also showing that the people who have had boosters have a less likely, because what you've done is just remobilize your immune system so it can actually take care. Remember that the more viruses you have, so we've had our 2 shots, right? And no booster. It means that there's a greater time and a greater possibility for this virus to double up and multiply in our system, okay? If we had that boost that you get from the booster shot, where immune system find it can have quicker elimination of the virus from your system, okay? It doesn't get the chance to penetrate because your whole immune capacity is so much increased, right? That it doesn't get a chance, and then the lifespan is over, so you don't have time to pass on. But let's say we just have our boosters and we just have our 2 shots, and the immunity starts to drop. That virus gets into your system, multiplies. The more virus you have, the more virus you have to share. Yeah. Okay, so the more virus, even if you had your 2, you may not get ill because there's some amount of protection for you, and we know that these viruses were created to protect you from being ill. That's what they can do. You can't really kill no virus. You can't really kill no we don't know how to kill viruses yet, okay? But these viruses were created to protect you from getting very ill, right? So the more virus you have, the more you can share. So if you have a booster, it is likely that your body, your immune system can create the elimination of the virus from your system, and there's a lesser possibility that you will actually infect others.
I got my booster.
I didn't get mine yet. I'm going to get mine this week.
Yeah. So, Doc, we're going to open the telephone. In fact, the line is already going. So let's go to the telephone and take our first call. Doctor and call, good evening. Hello, caller. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening, Godfrey. Good evening.
Yes. Can you turn the volume of your TV or your radio down and listen to us on your telephone?
I have the TV. It's off.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes. So I was saying good evening to you both. Now, Doctor, I have a relative in the United States. He is not well, and the symptoms that he's describing to me indicate to me that he has the Omicron virus, because he's talking about having a sore throat, he was feeling feverish, he had the cold, and so on. And now he's telling me, last night he told me that he has a severe earache. What does the earache? I've never heard about, people with the Omicron or whatever, is suffering from the earache. Is that part of it? Is the earache a part of the symptom? Thank you very much.
Well,
thank you for
calling. So the air is another part of the inner air, especially, is very much in contact with your upper respiratory tract, where the virus tends to be. So if he's having an earache, it's quite likely that his inner air is a little affected. Mm-hmm. So he might also have like dizziness and all of that. So it's likely, okay? Remember, you have lots of inflammation because you have that response, that cytokine response that causes a lot of inflammation in the area. So it is a possibility. And that is why some people just think they have the cold, because they just have a little runny nose and the air hurts a little and the throat hurts, and just above your neck, right? Above your chest, because the virus doesn't really go down, penetrate very much into your lungs. So that's a possibility.
Okay.
Oh, let's begin this way then. First, I must wish you God's richest blessings of continued health, strength, and wisdom, so that we can face whatever comes and confronts us and so on as we move into the new year.
Thank you.
God's blessings, sure.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Nixon.
Yes, sir.
I don't flatter people. I've never been a flatterer. I cannot be, because of my mentality, and I love listening to you, my little lady. I can listen to you for the day. I ain't brangoing. I don't brango. Listen, tell me something about, let me see you a little more. Are you from the Lamode region?
Yes, I am.
Which
All
one
the Nixons come from there. That's where
which
we
one
come
of
from.
those Nixon boys was your father? Because I remember Vince, I remember the electrician, I remember.
Vince was my father.
Oh, Vince was your pa. Well, interesting. So tell me, Jude and Vaughn and so are your cousins?
Yes, they are.
Hallelujah. Great. So know who I am. So, all right. I remember.
So everybody know who I am.
Well, yeah. I remember your aunt. Your aunt walked in everybody's stores with my mother years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Jude's mom.
Yes, that's right. There we go. Now let's go into the serious man. Very interesting conversation. I must congratulate you people on the theme you started with this year. And that issue related to the way we can protect ourselves and things that can be done by whom, whether it be the medical profession, whether it be the people themselves, and the personal responsibility. Many things have been touched upon, but I didn't hear you touch upon the things that we eat. We eat ourselves alive. And I think it is time that we start telling the people the reality about the Ben Bucky bride and the Bocabolas and the Bluffies and all of them that we use in poisoning ourselves. They're no good. But doctor, the point I want to focus in on, especially this point in time with a pandemic in the air, which is principally, predominantly a respiratory problem. Our air is totally contaminated in this country. doctor. I think we've raised it on this here before, and I want this year, I'm starting a campaign on it, and I hope to get it through to the government, whether they hear or not, but I shall, or they listen or not, but I shall speak. We give license to people to burn, doctor. They're burning construction rubble, and in there you have everything from plastics to whatever. Agricultural stubble, including the poison that they use to spray their plants and otherwise. They're burning everything. Nylon panty, they're burning coal pits in residential areas. We know what that produces, Dr. Methane, carbon monoxide. They're poisoning the people. I suffer with a respiratory system and problem in my system, doctor. You know what it is to have to get up in the night when that smoke invades this house to put on a gas mask to try to sleep, because my condition is hyperosmia. You understand what that is? It awakes me with dizziness and all sorts of strange feelings. That is why I've been wearing a gas mask even before this virus came around here. The vehicle emissions, there's no control on that. Pure carbon monoxide and nitrous oxide comes out of these exhaust systems because the police and those who are supposed to control these things, they do nothing about it because they don't see the danger in it. Doctor, you know when we respire dirtiness, the particulates that enter into our into our lungs and then flushed into the system, the venous system, and goes to all the organs, and what it does, the strokes, the heart attacks, the cancers that we suffer. We have been killing ourselves in this country for years. The question, what shall we do to stop it? You know, doctor, is important in my little readings and so on in recent times. 7.6, almost 7.6 million people per annum, you ought to know this, die from air pollution and air contamination. Globally, how many of us have died from COVID within the 2 years? Going to 5.6 or 5.7 thereabout. The point I'm trying to make is we have to do something in this country and to call upon the government to assist the people of Grenada so that they can respire clean air. They must abandon the burning, the indiscriminate, I want to stress on that adjective, burning of construction rubble, agricultural stubble, all kind of household goods. That has to stop. It's killing people, doctor. But continue the good works. I love to hear your talk. You're quite, and I repeat, I don't flatter people. We need...
Not flatterable.
We need a couple of doctors like you in this here country to come and to tell the people the truth, how it is, what we should do to help to protect ourselves. But at the same time, we need a campaign. I wish... Mention was meant, as I rung up here, mention was made a while ago about the Medical Association of Grenada. But again, that wouldn't come about until we reconstitute this nation with a totally different approach to the way the country should be run. But it's important that those in authority and the various organizations, the medical guild, the professional guild, so to speak, start taking a greater role in advising the government, and the government be made to obligatorily to accept the recommendations from you people so that the people of this country can enjoy a better life. We can do it, and we ought to do it. And therefore this year, we shall be implacable on them, doctor. We have to tell them as it is. Continue good works, my little lady, and may the Lord bless you all.
Thank you very much, caller. Thanks. Yes.
So this can be a whole program on its own, but
yes,
I think
indeed.
It's a very important point, because you remember we talking about Mr. Caller. You remember we spoke in the beginning about integrative practices. The truth is, I think that's one of the components that we have not taken into consideration. And I sit here thinking of Dr. Lyndon in Glasgow, who's an environment health professor at St. George's University, very passionate, and who works together with the Chronic Disease Commission and keeps bringing up the issue of environmental toxins and the challenges, even in our food. Right? All the junk we buy and feed our children, and all the toxins that are placed therein that we give them. the stuff that we take to prevent chronic disease. And of course, the whole issue, no, if you have a constant insult of smoke, other toxins on your respiratory tract, that's creating a bed. That's creating a harem for the coronavirus to come and say, "Oh, no defense here. This lining of the line of this respiratory tract is all broken up, right? It's like I'm going to get in here. There's no security.
This is the place to be.
But guess what? Look at the security and them too drunk to take care of anything that's going on because, they can't come together. They're probably dead anyway, right? Because there's so much damage on the respiratory tract. The gateway is wide open. So this is a very good point. And I think, I hope the powers that be are listening, because it wouldn't make sense that everybody else is working and those who can mitigate a lot of the other challenges are not participating in this. This pandemic is not only about medicine.
No, definitely
not. It's about climate change. It's about finance.
Everything. So much.
Everything. And it reflects how, that's what I'm saying, we have to practice health delivery differently. Take into consideration all of the parties. None of the ministries manifest arrogance and allow and disallow or refuse to allow the voice of everybody to participate in this. And that is why in the whole struggle against this COVID-19 pandemic, it can be a model for a lot of other things, because we're going to have more of this as we have environmental challenges. But it should be not just health, people, not just medicine alone. It must take into consideration other aspects of how health is maintained, how disease is prevented, right? And how people live in general. Because if you live in an area where you squat on a piece of land and they have a cane field next door and they're going to burn on the cane field, you have no choice because you have to live in that space. Well, I'm happy to hear that he have a gas mask. What about the people who don't have gas masks and their children have asthma?
Doctor,
right?
we have another caller on the line. Let's see if the caller is still there. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, caller. Go ahead, please.
Yes. I want to ask the doctor two questions. The first question, could a doctor withhold information from a patient? I'll give an example. If someone has cancer, could the doctor withhold information by not telling the patient they have cancer? Is that a possibility? That's the first question. The second question is that some doctors are comparing vaccination in the past with diseases like diphtheria, whooping cough, and so on, those old-fashioned symptoms. They are comparing the vaccine with the present vaccine situation. Now, long ago, you would take a vaccine, and that would last for your entire duration of your lifetime. One vaccine. Now, we are in a situation now where you are taking several vaccines for the COVID, and it seems to be continuous. And some doctors are drawing the comparison with that time with the one vaccine, and it's bringing it forward to what's going on now. I need a little clarification on that, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you very much.
Thank you for calling, sir. So you asked whether a doctor can withhold information from a patient. Some patients actually ask the doctors not to tell them if anything happened to them. A lot of patients, especially when it's severe illness. But the doctor is supposed to ask the patient, you want me to tell you everything that's going on? I can tell you what you do, So sometimes families don't know because the person has asked the doctor, don't tell anybody. Or I don't want to hear. And sometimes they say, tell, but you should not. You should disclose all of the patient's information. Whatever he asks, you should tell him, explain it, let him know easy. You don't want to keel over in your office. As a matter of fact, if you're looking for something, you really should tell the patient. So there should be that communication. That's why remember me talking about drive-through medicine. Sometimes you go through it so quickly. Tell a patient, I'm sending for these tests. But you need to spend a couple minutes and say, look, I'm sending you for this because I see X, Y, Z. I'm gonna ask you to do this. I'm gonna ask you to do Y. And I want you to understand how you feel. Do you want to be closest to you? Do you want to say, come with your wife or come with your sister, come with your mother, your daughter, right? Come with your brother, your boyfriend. I don't care. You want someone to be there with you because this is what we're looking for. Okay? So if we have good communication, it shouldn't be that much. I don't think there's anything that a doctor should withhold from a patient. That's my opinion. The patient may not want to hear, but you should ask him, I need to tell somebody, is it okay if I tell somebody else?
Because I'm thinking, Doc, what if that patient requires some specialized care? Somebody ought to know.
Yes. And of course, so there are people who don't have the capacity to accept the knowledge, right? The information you give them, they don't understand. They wouldn't understand. So if I want to tell somebody who probably wouldn't come to my office anyway, although he might be somebody who's disabled but who live alone, have some learning disability, they come to me. Telling him might make a difference. I say, I'm sending to this person, go do this. Then you have to say, look, you need to bring somebody with you. We wanted to know this. Once a person has capacity, they should be able to tell you yay or nay or what. And those are the things. Is the person able to accept the information? Would it make sense? Can you continue to manage them? Is it in the best interest to withhold information, right? Because the person can't act on it. So there are a lot of, you have to take it individually. But a doctor should not withhold information from a patient if he wants to hear his information. You should be able to go. As a matter of fact, you should be able to give the patient his reports, because it's also something that's important to him, right? His blood results, a report on what you've seen.
Yeah.
Because he decided, I want to go to see Dr. What's your name again? Godfrey, instead of see Dr. Nixon. You understand? Would you please give me? I need a report. That's a responsibility. We should not keep communication. 2. So the vaccine thing could take us a week, okay? And I'll give an example. When I was a little girl, I was probably like 9. I've said this before. I'm walking home one evening, me and my usual gang walking up Lamour, and the nurse in the brown uniform that we all hate, that lady, right, that carried the ice box?
Yeah.
That have the vaccine vial in it, the big ice box with like 10 liquor vial in there. And she called us. And she tell us she's going to get vaccination for polio. That's in the late 60s. And everybody started bawling in unison, okay? And then she says, no, you're going to get a drop on your tongue with a lump of sugar. Woohoo! Can I get 2 lumps of sugar? You know how it is, right?
Yeah.
And that was the oral polio vaccine. But we weren't sure how efficient it was, how effective that vaccine was. But we also didn't have social media. And my mother didn't know. But there was a world outbreak of polio.
And there also wasn't the FDA to test.
No, my FDA been involved. What do you?
They came around in the 1940s, they're about.
48, 49. FDA has been, right? But it was more to work for the US. But the bottom line is that it was for the greater good. And we still believe in, and even then, you had challenges of integrity, and you've had a whole lot of conventions and stuff that now protect people who participate in study and being able to send it. But that's, like I said, that's a whole nother story, right? So we got a polio vaccine. I'm sure that my mother wouldn't mind me getting a vaccine that may not do me harm, but also prevent me from becoming disabled, physically disabled. The other thing is that, Mr. Caller, some of the vaccines that are given now, and some of the vaccines you would have gotten, were to take care of diseases over a period of time. So a lot of the vaccines that children get in the early childhood are to prevent diseases that affect early childhood, that can be deleterious in early childhood. So I might get measles and nothing's going to happen to me because I'm big and old, right? But you don't want your 2 and your 3-year-old to get measles.
Right.
It can cause permanent brain damage. It can cause heart problems. It can cause a lot of stuff. So those vaccines are given, and they are actually given more than one. If you look at your children's vaccine card, you get, at birth, you get a hepatitis B shot, but you get 3, except that you get them over a period of 6 months. Right? And what they do, every time you get a vaccine, it stimulates your immune system more. You get MMR, you get 1 in your early in your first year, and you get 1 in your 4th year. Right? You get tetanus, you get 1 with a whole set of vaccines. They come together. You get a tetanus vaccine, you get a next one at 4, you get 1 when you go into high school, and then you have to get 1 every 10 years. Those are boosters. Right? It's just that we don't speak of them like that. The issue of coronavirus, we need to take into context, because this is not just, well, maybe children in Grenada will get polio if we don't give them their polio vaccine. Okay? There's a very widespread, there are only 2 countries in the world that don't have all their polio done. And we still have people who recently have not been given their children vaccines because of all this crap that people have been talking, all the foolishness we've been talking, because vaccines make adults, okay? If we don't give vaccines, ask your auntie, ask your grandmother about the generation of children before them, how much of their children they lost, and they were lost to vaccine-preventable diseases. But we don't know that. That's the kind of information we need to share with our population, right? A mother would go, her child seems to have a cold. What the child has is a pneumonia. Vaccines prevent pneumonia, right? I've seen a man, an older man, probably was in his 60s, just gone to medical school, working on his farm, a piece of rock fall on his foot, he got a wound, he clean it, he tied up a strap, and he go to the farm again, right? Guess what? He had tetanus. He was lying like this on the bed, where this is his belly. This is his back that doesn't touch the bed. That was one of the most impressive things I've seen in my medical career. It happens. It doesn't happen a lot. We don't see these things because we have such a widespread vaccination program and ongoing campaign. Because coronavirus is so prolific, because it's so easy to catch, people get the flu shots every year, the vaccine. But next year, when the flu changes, the virus that's going to cause you to have the flu cannot change, they develop another vaccine. They look and see, people do research every day. They don't come because, the people in China have a cold, have a van. That's not how it goes. It's followed every day. So that is why it looks like this vaccine is not working. If we control a virus by making sure that people get properly vaccinated, it can't change. And these viruses, that is how they behave. They will change if you don't control them. They will change. They have the capacity to change the material, that very basic material, the genetic material of which they're made of, if you can't control them. The bigger thing is that we can control coronavirus. We are able to, if we will just keep our tail quiet. Right? But we want to go to party, we want to do everything, and still we don't want to take something that gives us the chance to make sure that the virus, if it gets into us, it doesn't bother us. So, Mr. Caller, that's the challenge with the vaccine. I know people are frustrated and they hear first, and some people are already into their second boosters, but it's because we have allowed, by the so-called freedoms that we have allowed ourselves to not be properly inoculated or population protected. And Israelis had X, Y, and Z. Guess what? The Israelis got a second chance, and the next day they were out partying. It takes a little time before you get that full immunity. And if you have so much of the virus around, you will become infected before your immune system, kicks in and is able to take care of it. So there's a lot. And I wanted to talk to you about this again, but it is important that we do this. And I tell everybody, give yourself a fighting chance to live. I don't know if anybody who died in Grenada was vaccine. Maybe people died, I don't know. But I think I would have known if we had deaths, right? But I know a lot of people who died and who got very ill because they were not vaccinated.
Right.
Okay, and it was identified. When 200 people in a population of 100,000 people die in 6 weeks of one disease that we could have controlled, and we chose not to. We chose to go and crawl around and carry it all over the place, right? And not disclose that we were sick. it is not good for us.
Right.
Right? And that is why I speak of personal responsibility. How am I responsible for me, and how am I going to be responsible for the rest of the people that I come in contact, or I choose to come in contact, or am I going to choose to come in contact with them or not, in the interest of everybody's well-being.
Right. Okay, Doc, let's go back to the telephone. Doctor and call, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, caller.
Yes. I have a little concern. My concern tonight is about, they say the health system is very easy to be clogged up.
Be what?
It's very easy with the amount of people that would be coming down with COVID. Why don't they want people to go to school in such a crowd? I don't know. I'm so frustrated with this kind of information that I get just now there, where they say about the school should be open by Monday. And according to information that I gathered, the clothing in which some people have, and the sweat and perspiration from people, the corona can pass on from people to people, and how are they going to deal with such situation if a lot of people come down with the corona? And I think they're encouraging a lot of, clogging of health, whatever. I'm so frustrated.
So I understand your concern, but I want you to remember a couple of things. The more people who are vaccinated, the less the chance of the virus being available. Okay? Because if the virus don't have anybody to go into, it dies. Because the virus needs a living body. That's what we probably need to say at the beginning.
It needs people to get around. Yes, it needs people to get around.
Right. A virus cannot exist. This virus, this coronavirus, needs your respiratory tract to live. It comes, it multiplies on your nose, and if it's a delta, it goes along in your chest, right? If you don't pass it on to anybody else, that's it, it's dead. If you have a vaccine and it can't spread, it can't multiply, it can hardly invest, because the more viruses you have, the more you can share, right? And even if you give people, even if you get it and you share it to people who are already vaccinated, the possibility of it multiplying in them is small. Yeah, and you need to have a certain amount of the virus present for the person to have a full-blown infection. Okay? So one virus in your system may not make you sick, but if that one virus gets a chance to multiply into 1 million, you are going to have symptoms. Even if, as in the case of this Omicron, right, you have just upper respiratory tract, mild, moderate, or maybe no symptoms, right? So everybody has to see, and I'm going to ask this again, how am I preventing coronavirus from spreading in my community? Okay? Am I wearing my mask properly and all the time? Am I wearing the proper mask? Like they say, no, you need to wear your N95, right? Because this virus is so crazy. You only need a few to get into multiply. Have I been vaccinated and boosted? Because that is proven to decrease the chances of the Omicron multiplying. Okay, if you have only the 2 shots, Omicron can cause symptoms, okay, and can cause you to get sick. Right? So what is my role? Here's what is my role as an individual. I'm a physician. I have to make sure that I keep away from people as much as I can. But people come to my office seeking care. People come to my office seeking care are people who are ill. Mm-hmm. So I have to make sure that I'm appropriately vaccinated, so I don't have these viruses jumping up inside me and multiplying. So when I go to examine Mr. Godfrey's air and I come close to his face, I might breathe out and breathe a couple of viruses into his face. or if I'm looking at his throat, that I don't cough at that time. All of those things. I have a responsibility to ensure that when he comes into my office, he sanitizes because he's coming off the road, right? His mask is appropriately put on so he doesn't infect my nurse, he doesn't infect other people who are sitting in my area. I have to figure out what is my responsibility to stop it. I could have gone anywhere I wanted for New Year's Eve. I stayed at my house and watch whatever firework I could see, right? Because this is not a time to be running up and down the road and palavering. I have very good friends. We talk on the phone and we understand this is a time to hold it down until all of us are completely vaccinated. And most of my friends are vaccinated. So I have to see, and so do you and every other individual. Our concern and the concern of the CDC, the World Health Organization, is a problem of our children. But if all of us healthy, we don't have no virus to pass on to our children. They've been home lockdown. They shouldn't get any virus from us who go on the road and go party. Not if we take the proper precautions. Mm-hmm. And our children, I think it's time. I would like to see our children back in their normal lives. This is the second year that children have been basically at home struggling. And I've seen some kids who started high school struggle through Form 1, kids who are generally bright, because they need to be in an environment of learning. So I would wish that we can do something to encourage our children to participate back in school, but that is our adult responsibility. There are vaccines that are available for children. Parents have to consider whether they will give their children the vaccine or teach their children responsible behavior as well. Because that is something children would learn. Mm-hmm. Children would learn. Don't come to me and where's your mask? You never sanitize your hand. Children knows that. You teach your children that and they will tell you, I don't want anything, your hand's not sanitized. They're going to give me corona.
That's
and
right.
you know they have no filters. So I hope that answers your question, sir.
Let's get back to the telephone. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good night, Godfrey.
Yes, good evening, caller.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Are you getting a feedback online?
No, go ahead, please.
All right. Yeah, well, Dr. Nixon, let me start with you. Listen, this vaccine is not a medication. It's just a prevention, right? Because why we get the virus through the air, right? So what we breathe in, and you use a good word, keep away from many people, social distance. So back to you on your job.
Thank you very much, caller. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir. I want you to tell your friends that, okay? It's not a treatment, it's a prevention. And that is what is very important. Because somebody had asked about the stress, the gentleman before asked about the stress on the system, right? We don't want to go back there. Mm-hmm. We don't want to go back where people are told. I had one of my children, my many children, was pregnant and had to wait until she was in full labor, right? Ready to have baby before she go into the hospital. You want mother to go in and to be properly evaluated. You know, this is my due date. Or I think I'm in early labor. You go in and you could walk up and down. Nurse could monitor your baby and you can have safer outcomes. Because what is going to happen is not just that we're going to have all this corona and all this craze. The other areas of care are going to be so poorly attended because we're so distracted by this crisis that you're going to have young, early premature death of babies. You're going to have maternal death going up. Those are the things you want to. You're going to have strokes and kidney failures and cancers. I'm concerned about my patients with cancer who have not been able to get screened. And I ask people, how many of us got screened for breast cancer last year? How many of us got screened for prostate cancer? Right? How many of our women went and got a pap smear to ensure that they're not developing stuff? How many of our children were taken to the dentist to get their clean? Which was kind of a no-no because dentists don't, they make all the aerosols and those are the things, how the virus catches onto the little bits of vapor, right? The little bubbles of air and with the water, right? How many of us were able to do that? How many of us who just did our basic eye check or diabetics? How many of us did what we had to do? We didn't. It means that what we're going to see, and Dr. Noel said it earlier in this year, that they already had in November, they were seeing what they will normally see after Christmas. That onslaught of patients with severe illness, hypertension, diabetes, and other stuff coming on. That's why we are responsible, okay? Because you still can go and get care. Make sure your sugar is under control. Make sure your blood pressure is under control. Make sure you don't have sugar. Make sure you don't have any forms of cancer. But if we don't contain corona, it's going to just take everything else and take priority, and everything has become second rate. And that is why it's important that we take care of ourselves we become responsible, right? But responsibility also includes not just preventing coronavirus, but it also includes taking care of your health, making sure that you're well, doing your wellness check. Parents, take your children, your adolescent children, to see the doctor annually. Let us start picking up. Is your child overweight? Your little children as well. Are they overweight? What is the state of their teeth? Can your children see? Are their eyes good? What is their blood pressure? The other things, your daughter having abdominal pain, she's not having a period. Is she cysts and other things that would affect her as she goes on to adolescent life? Is your young son smoking marijuana? Is his behavior different? Are we identifying mental illness among our children? Let's not let those things become other epidemics or other pandemics for us, because then we won't be able to contain us. So everybody's going to put their hand down. And then let's make sure that our health staff doesn't become fatigued to the point where their own immune system cannot fight.
And they cannot provide the help.
Because they've been coming down with corona. What happens when our staff is ill? Who's going to take care of us? Okay, so that's a responsibility that everybody has.
Let's go back. Well, we have time for one final call. Let's take that call before we wrap for this evening. Doctor and call, good evening.
Good evening, Godfrey, and good evening, Dr. Nixon.
Good evening, caller.
Well, I've been waiting a long time on the line, but let me make my contribution quickly. Why are there so many false positives? I had some friends who did the tests on their walk in the south, and they came out positive. Apparently, the young lady, she was not feeling well, and she went to the health center to redo a quick test, and it came out positive. And she's a bit confused, and I'm a bit confused. I am wondering, why are the tests saying positive and then negative? So I said to her, to be on the safe side, go and do a PCR test. And she went up in the hospital 150 to do the test, and she awaiting the result. However, let's imagine that from a medical point of view, the result comes out negative, which means that most of the rapid tests they are doing, they are faulty. Because today alone, I heard a lot of people saying that almost everyone who went into their center to do the test came out positive. So I don't know if it's storage, if it's a batch of tests they have been receiving. But I'm a veterinary surgeon, and I'm a bit confused because it's just positive, negative, which results in there are a lot of people who cannot afford to do the PCR test. So if generally the test is negative instead of positive, what do these people do? They will go with the aim that they are positive for COVID, and some of them they are not positive. So it is very, very confusing, and I think they should get right with the test.
All right, don't go away, because I want to ask you one question. I want to clarify something. You're saying to Grenada that there are people who have been tested positive, right, with the rapid test, but they're negative, right?
Yes.
How you know that they're negative?
No, because when they do the test, they told them that some of them are negative, and when they are not feeling well, they went back to do the test, and they come out positive.
But you can change. You can change. And I do a test today that says I'm negative because I don't have enough antibodies to identify the fact, or enough antigen.
The viral load is not enough. The viral load, yes.
Right, to identify. And 2 days, when it proliferates or it gets a little bit, it multiplies, it comes out positive. And remember that a lot of these people who are being tested is because they're tested because of contact tracing, right? So you may not yet. So unless I thought you would tell me the other way. Because I've seen one of the writings that said that a lot of people, the tests that we've had in the past are given false negatives, right? Because this virus is so different. right?
So what you're saying, because of the doing of the antibodies, that's why the test comes out.
You're not doing antibodies, you're doing antigen tests.
Antigen,
is present. It's an antigen test. The virus is present. It's specific for the virus.
So how would you convince these people that the test is positive? Because they are confused.
The test positive. People don't want to be positive, doctor. They don't want to be. They don't want to be positive. So they said, oh, they get a false positive, right? You can be negative today, and tomorrow you have enough antigens to identify that you have the virus. So the bottom line is that if you're exposed and you do a test and it says you're positive, you might as well do what you have to do.
So
do what you're required to do. Isolate yourself until you go back and get a negative test.
So they are positive. So means they have the right to do a PCR test if they want to get a second opinion.
They can do a PCR test on their own costs.
But if, as you rightly said, if you think you are positive, do the right measures, take your supplement, isolate yourself, and do the right thing.
Keep your box and your whatever is at home. You know, people need to understand. And I understand, and I'm going to be very kind here. I understand how people feel emotionally when they hear they have COVID, the scare, the fear, and all the rest of it. From last week we started, and I saw them. I said, "This has to be Omicron. Nobody's getting sick enough to go to the hospital and all of that, right?" Some people don't even know they have it, and the fact that people don't know that they have it, everybody needs to take precaution because you do not know who has coronavirus because the symptoms are so.
Without cutting you to end, Dr. Nixon, a lot of people think the new virus, what they are saying, the conception is that it doesn't kill people. So which means they are saying, oh, there are no virus in Grenada because that's just a cold, as you rightly said. People say they do not take measures. They do not wear masks. I traverse the country. I go all over the country and walk, as you know. And the majority of people, they are not wearing the mask. They are just putting their guards down because they are saying on account it doesn't kill anybody. But you do not know if you are immunocompromised.
But caller, there were deaths in England from Omicron.
Hello?
Yes.
There were deaths in England from Omicron.
Yes, I know. I know they are deaths in England, but Grenadians, they are not taking preventive measures.
And that is why we're asking Grenadians to be responsible for themselves and for the people around them. We need to get rid of this foolishness of being in denial. That's where we are. Omicron is present in Grenada. Maybe I have it and I don't know. But guess what? Patient walk into my office, I cover my face. I say, hold on, sanitize and come in. When you come in, I sanitize. And maybe I clean my office after. The truth is, we know what mitigates the spread. We know what can control the spread of any virus in this pandemic. You wash your hands or you sanitize. And I sanitize, but I wash my hands every so many days. I go and I wash soap and water and wash my hands. I wear my mask, right? And I don't open my patient. My patient sits 5 feet away from me. Right? We talk. Yes, I have to do a pressure. Stand on the side and I do that and we don't spend much time. Do I look at the throat? Yes, I do. But I take 10 seconds to do that. Please put back on your mask. Right? Because I not only have a responsibility for me, but also for the next patient I'm going to see in my office. We need to be responsible and stop being so selfish and stop being so stupid, some of us. Right? I don't want anybody come tell me no foolishness because I've heard too much foolishness and the foolishness has caused 200 of us to death. Let me tell you what bothers me. What bothers me is that this thing is going to crawl back into spaces like a cockroach in the night to people who are vulnerable and can't take their vaccines.
Okay, caller.
Innocent people are going to become victims again because we're not accepting what is the truth. The truth is that there is a virus that needs to have a human body in which to get itself there, eat, and proliferate, make babies. And the more babies it have, the more it have to share. And it goes to one person to the other person. But it has complicated behaviors. It gets into me and it makes me have a pneumonia. It gets into Tom and his pancreas gets shut down. Or it gets into Dick and Dick brain, Dick lungs, Dick heart, everything, and Dick dies. That is our reality today. And I tell everybody I see in town walking with his phone, get into the phone and go to the World Health Organization, go to the CDC and read. Ask for simple information. It's all here. Inform yourself. You don't have to go and get information on the vaccine. What you need to get information as to how a virus behaves. What is a virus? How does it behave? How will it affect me? You can type that in and information comes up very simply. Go to the Mayo Clinic where they give very, very simple information and get information. Stop TikToking foolishness and go onto your phones and get on the internet and start asking. Start having discussions. A young lady asked me the other night, how can we empower youth? And I said, how is the youth going to empower them? And I said, you guys need to start a conversation and ask people who might have a little more information to help you to guide you through, right? To make you guys understand and become a little more responsible because you speak your own language. I can tell you everything scientific. You translate it into teenage language, into adolescent language, and talk about it and empower each other to be the ones who are the advocates. As we're going to be sitting on this coronavirus thing for the next 10 years, and some children will not pass common entrance, or they wouldn't do their CXCs, school will be closed forever, they'll be under-informed, right? And we'll have children who have poor social skills because they don't go there and mix with people. People can't go to church, they can't do. When all we have to do is to figure out, what the hell is this? And how am I going to beat this? It is everybody's business. I see, for example, people have been upset about not being allowed into Blue Street Mall with a cruise ship coming. Do you know what it will be for us if one person comes ashore and they get coronavirus from us in the mall? We're done. Our cruise ship isn't done. And even if 40 people come off each ship and they spend $20, that's $800 more than we had. $800 more than naught. We're trying to grow again. It's a collective responsibility to ensure that we're viable mentally, physically, financially, emotionally, environmentally, whichever lead. All of us have the responsibility to do this. I don't have any magic potion. All I have is some basic information that I'm applying to everyone whom I know.
Okay, thank you, caller. Thank you very much indeed for your contribution. All right, yes. Okay, well, that was our last call. Quite a bit of information there. You know, Doc, the question the caller asked, about someone testing and being negative and then the next day positive. I have personal experience about this. And it's a fact. And I questioned, and it was explained to me. The viral load must be such that it can manifest itself in a test. And if it doesn't, then you may show negative, and by the time it builds up, then you show positive. So,
viral load is basically the amount of viruses that exist in a certain concentration, right? So you might have 1-2 viruses. You might just meet Tom and just get it from him. You go do it. Lord, I was sitting down there having lunch with Tom, and I hear me having coronavirus. You do a test today, tomorrow, the third day, bing, and the only person you've met is Tom, right? It takes a time before the virus has to get into a place where it can attach itself to your respiratory tract, get into your system, and multiply.
Right. In fact, just as we get ready to wrap, tonight in the news, Dr. Sean Charles, I think a question was posed, and he was saying that once you're exposed, you should get tested between 5 to 7 days, and I think it is done by chance, so that you don't have a situation where you go to get tested and it doesn't show up, and 2 days later you go back and you get positive, and then you're all confused. So that's the thing, Doc.
Because of how this virus works, we talked about people come for Christmas and they bring it, and there are people who did their PCRs, but you come from somebody in the airport, right? And if you're coming here, you do a PCR, it's still negative because you just get it this morning. Because this virus behaves differently. Yeah, it does. But it replicates quickly, right? So it takes a little time. Yeah, it takes a little time. But then you see all of these viruses there. But our immune system, if we're vaccinated, can prevent it from being in such large numbers so that we don't get sick. but still we can share the virus with other people.
Right. Thank you, Doc. I'm quite happy we started on that note because some things came out. I think one caller mentioned health as it relates to what we eat. Also, the environment, and you made mention of I think Dr. Glasgow. Maybe we can make efforts to get her onto the program to chat a little bit about this, and we have a lot more to talk about, and we are going to continue, folks. So rest assured, we're going to do our part on the program to try to put information out there, credible information, so that you can understand the importance of protecting yourself. Doc, anything in closing?
Yes, and look, this is 2022. TWO?
Yes.
No, TWO? Maybe not TWO. We will make sure it's not TWO.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. Make sure it's 2022, okay? Take charge, guys. I want everybody to empower themselves. You don't understand how to do it? Talk to somebody who can help you. It's your turn to make this thing turn around. We all want to travel again. We all want to go to the beach. We all want to go to the party. We all want to play carnival. We all want to go to church, whatever it is. But we have to do it collectively. Time for collective responsibility. Apart from that, I want to see, especially our young people, take their own health into their hands. You are the next old people, because half of us done dead out, right? But you have a responsibility to say, how am I going to preserve my life? How am I going to make sure? How am I going to make sure that I don't get sick? How am I going to keep away from corona? Because I personally would not want my 5-year-old child contracting even mild coronavirus, but developing heart problems.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I would not want my 10-year-old to develop kidney problems. And those are the things that can happen. And that is why we're so very concerned, especially now with this Omicron, because Omicron seems to have a special liking for
young
little children.
Right.
So I, as an adult, have a responsibility to ensure that I do not give any child that comes in my way. And every adult in Grenada has that responsibility to ensure. So we must see our children as a sacred bunch that we're going to preserve, that they're not going to get Omicron, because we're going to preserve them. We're going to prevent it from getting to them, because we are going to take precautions by staying away, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to take our vaccines and our boosters. That's going to make sure that our viral load is so very low. If we get the Omicron in particular, and remember Delta's still around, okay, guys? Yes. Our viral load is so very low that it cannot create it can't spread to others, because it's just so few viruses. The chances of us giving our children. The other thing is the nutrition of our children is very important to ensure that they have the immune system that will jump into place, right? Because we really want to see them go back to school. I know the gentleman is very concerned, but we have to make way for them to get back to school. Yeah. I think we're going to follow what the people outside are doing. I know the schools in New York went back, but there's other schools. The Jamaicans went back. Their children went back yesterday, and they have more coronavirus than us. And I think everybody's playing by ear to see how the kids will respond, right? The New York kids did not go. They didn't go back. They kept shut down. Canada is shutting down again. So we have to see how our big boys who have resources behave. But it is an individual responsibility to make sure that 2022 is our best year, that we all are healthy, not just prevented from corona, but we're really well. Let's come out on top this year by making changes in our lifestyle. Exercising, eating properly, leaving the junk food alone, okay? Not smoking, not drinking, those are the things. Ensure that the environment is healthy, like our caller, and have an idea of where you live and the crappy experiences, right?
Yes, indeed.
And put the health authorities under the microscope so that they can look at it in a very integrative way to ensure the well-being. I wish everybody a wonderful year, and I guess we get to talk again.
Definitely.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Doc.
Go get your vaccine. I beg you, go get your vaccine.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Doc. Just in closing, I just want to switch gears a bit because, as you were talking about the children and the importance, of protecting them, I was very disturbed last evening with a news report I saw as it relates to a missing child, and the Child Protection Authority said they had no comment. And I'm going to leave it there for now. I'll deal with it tomorrow. No comment. I'll deal with it tomorrow evening on Release It. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. It was indeed a pleasure. Thanks to our friends on Facebook. We thank you so very much, and we look forward. Don't forget, tomorrow evening, our first Release It for 2022. Alan is going to be with me. We're going to have a time as usual. Thank you very much. Do have a good night. All the best.
When a loved one passes on, we all need the comfort, support, and guidance of a trusted friend. You can rely on LaCour Brothers Funeral Home. We provide a personalized professional service that exceeds all expectations. Our dedicated staff responds to your every need with the greatest detail, ensuring affordability with a variety of options. Upgraded state-of-the-art facilities, spacious air-conditioned chapel with live internet streaming, a modern, environmentally safe crematorium, the only of its kind on island, private viewing spaces, large on-site repast center, a modern transportation fleet. Join our burial society today and make personalized arrangements for that final moment as you prepare to enter your loved one into eternal rest. Visit or call LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and select a package that brings added comfort to the entire family. LaCour Brothers Funeral Home and Burial Society, continuing a tradition of excellence.
When you need your prescription filled or you require non-prescribed medication, supplements, or all your personal needs, visit Gittins Healthcare at locations on Wall Street, Grandans, Victoria Street, Granville, and Central Deputy Street, Wharf. Gittins Healthcare aims to provide an exceptional personalized pharmacy experience. Additionally, children under 5 and adults 55 years and over will enjoy 10% discount on purchases of $20 and over on prescription medication. Stop settling for less. Visit Gittins Healthcare, where your health is our priority.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Greetings, everyone. I hope this message meets you and yours in the best of health as we join in encouraging all to act responsibly.
COVID-19 presents the most serious
and deadly challenge
any of us will experience in our lifetimes.
We must act now.
We need to keep the Caribbean safe.
We can all help to stop the spread of the coronavirus. Please stay at home.
So Caribbean people, please stay home.
Caribbean people, please stay at home.
Please stay home. It's that simple. This too shall pass, but for now, stay home.
Stay in your yard. Stay home, stay safe.
Grenada's chief medical officer has ordered that all confirmed positive COVID-19 individuals, their contacts, and members of their household must remain in quarantine or isolation for 14 days.
Anyone who fails to comply with this order will be in breach of the Public Health COVID-19 Regulations 2020 and is guilty of an offense. Upon summary conviction, that person will be liable to a penalty of up to $10,000. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Are you a small business and would like your business to grow? Do you have an event, products or services that people should know about? Be wise. Advertise. Book your spot on GBN Shopping Guide. Be part of Grenada's biggest advertising medium, the Grenada Broadcasting Network. Call our sales department now on 440-2446 or 440-3033 or GBN plus the number sign. Email us at sales@gbn.gd. Special conditions apply.
This is a message from the Ministry of Health. If you or a family member suspect that you may have contracted COVID-19 and are displaying symptoms, please immediately self-isolate at home. This means that you must also avoid all contact with other members of your household. Do not visit hospitals or health centers, as this creates the potential for further spread of the virus, and it puts additional persons at risk when you come into contact with them. Your best course of action is to call the COVID-19 hotline at 458-4787 or 538-4787 or contact your nearest health center or medical station. Once your information has been received, health officials will come to you. How prevent the spread of COVID-19? This has been a message from the Ministry of Health.
Looking for that injection of vibes and energy, of course? Well, I've got just that. Hi, my name is Gary, Mr. Smooth, and I'm inviting you to join me on the Hot Morning Show on Hot 98.5, 98.7 FM. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 10 in the morning. I've got a healthy dose of your favorite and most infectious hits sampled with information, news, laughter, and all the other ingredients that go into making the hottest morning show on the radio, the Morning Heat. And while you're at it, don't forget to hit us up on WhatsApp, 435-7517. We've got topics, we've got discussions, calls, voice notes, and so much more. But I can't tell you everything. You gotta tune in. The Hot Morning Show on Hot FM, 98.5, 98.7. With yours truly, Gary, Mr. Smooth. Kaboom!
Everyone. As we prepare to say goodbye to the old year and welcome the new, we implore upon everyone to play their